Uh, but yeah, we are live. Hey, folks who might already be here, and to any folks who got spooky by the very subtle change in time. Just give folks a few seconds to come on in, and then we will get right into gear.
Thank goodness. This is on thestabbiness.com.org/stabbiness.
Yep,
That
That
one.
one.
that's the one. Hopefully, unless I accidentally
No,
put
it
in
is.
the wrong
No,
stream
it
key.
is. I got it on the side.
Nice. That's good, because I can't see chat yet. But,
Hello,
hey, folks.
people. Filtering into chat. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a podcast episode. I don't know anymore. I stopped keeping track. It's like 5 or something. But yeah, this episode is, as you can tell, games that had an impact. More specifically, games that had an impact on you. It could be any, it could have impacted you in any way, be it small, big, or just like a subtle thing, like introduced you to a new genre that you didn't know you liked before. And that is going to be the subject of today. So after, I'm going to give folks 2 minutes to come on in. And, after that, we will get started for realsies. But how are folks in chat doing, including in call?
Oh my goodness. I've been doing really well. I took a nice break today, and I didn't know how much I missed break until I took it, and I'm very happy I did.
Nice.
also-
Absence creates fondness.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
I'm excited to also just kind of get back into the swing of things. Make sure all that's all done.
Mm-hmm.
Make work.
Also, yeah, Black Rabbit, that is Piff. We got mostly new people today, because I saw the opportunity to do so.
Ooh.
I'm not new. I've been on podcasts before.
Yeah,
Not me.
not Civ, but I am very excited to hear what Civ has to say. But,
Me too.
What I've said it all before.
Yeah, but I want to hear it again.
I've actually never heard you speak about this subject of game outside of text form, so I'm interested in hearing what's gonna
Oh
happen.
boy.
It's gonna be fun.
Piff sweats.
Oh, Piff, don't worry. I got your back. I know you.
Yeah, who is all
I'll
on
agree with at
stream?
least one thing.
Who is all on stream? Asked Black Rabbit. We have Piff, Civ, and Yam, and then myself.
Hello, hello.
Howdy. I'm trying desperately to finish my supper very quickly, so I'm sorry if you hear me eating. I guess I can mute, but like...
I believe in you.
Munch
Yeah.
that food.
We have a decent amount of people in here now that I think it's a good time to get started. So, we're gonna start with my thing, because my thing will be very, very brief and will help us kind of motion into the swing of things. So, as you might be hearing in the background, music that is currently playing is good old Kingdom Hearts 2 music, and the reason why that is the case is because Kingdom Hearts 2 is actually, while you can say lots of things about the series itself, Kingdom Hearts 2 had a big impact on my entire life as a whole, actually. Because, for those of you who do not know this about me, I was kind of an only child growing up. However, I did have a half-brother and half-sister that I never got to meet until much later into my life. And when I did eventually finally meet them, unfortunately, due to just kind of how teenagers and stuff act during that time and whatnot, and just kids in general, they didn't particularly want to interact with me too much, despite despite like my attempts to do so, because I was actually very excited when I learned that I actually did have siblings. However, no matter how hard I tried, I could never get them to actually like sit down with me or just talk in general. The closest thing I ever got was very few off comments and whatnot. However, the game that finally got them to start interacting with me was Kingdom Hearts 2. And this is the reason why this is actually one of my favorite games of all time and why it is so important to me. Because, since this was why I was able to finally, like, begin bonding with my brother and sister and all that, it led to a lot of big changes in my life with my personality and everything, and a lot of like myself now is dependent on of like the things when we bonded doing this, which led to us basically every week that they would come over and visit my home, we would just start a new playthrough of Kingdom Hearts 2 and play through until we beat it. And that was what we would do every week basically, which is why I've beaten it so many damn times. But I absolutely adore this game for that. And that's more or less it, honestly. That's all I really wanted to say about it, just kind of get us in the swing of things. Other than that, I do really appreciate this game just for it being like a fun game itself. You can say what you will about the story and how the story in general is a fucking massive mess hole of chaos. But for me, this game will always be a really important thing for me just for bonding with my siblings. Which is why I appreciate
you come out swinging with this wholesome story.
Yeah. That's why I started this, actually, because I know everybody here has wildly different things to talk about. Because
we start wholesome.
Yeah.
I'm not fond of Kingdom Hearts myself, but Kingdom Hearts 2 is the only one that I have played of the series, and I do like it. I don't like, you know, the storytelling of it, but I do think the game itself is very good.
Yeah, as somebody who has a vehement dislike of Kingdom Hearts and most Disney things in general, I will absolutely give it credit that this is one of the games and just like series in general that when people are happy about it, they are so happy. This game means so much to so many people, and no matter how much pissin' and spittin' I do about it, that doesn't matter because this game, like, it's magical for some people. Like, it does capture that Disney magic.
Yeah.
I think at least Civ can back me up on this. Remember when I started playing Kingdom Hearts 3? And I just started like talking about like, oh man, like this part and this part. I do remember just one part, it's like, son of a bitch game, you're making me feel things.
Yeah! Yep.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts is really good for that. Like, it's those little moments that I think make Kingdom Hearts really fun for me. Is that, like, I had a similar thing, Piff, with Kingdom Hearts 3. Fucking, like, weirdly enough, despite me not being super, like, into Disney properties as a whole, I usually played Kingdom Hearts for, like, the Final Fantasy side of things. The fucking Toy Story world in Kingdom Hearts 3 had me going, and just, like, all of that, and also just the general, like, spoilers for the ending Kingdom Hearts 3, I guess. There's a scene that's basically a big homage to the multiplayer phone game and all the people who played it. That really hit me hard, just that they were willing to, like, have something like that where, like, people could straight up have their like, internet or phone handle in the game itself. And I was just imagining how much that would probably mean to a person who had been like playing these games for like their entire life, and then all of a sudden, like, if they did manage to get to see their oh boy, this did not loop. Damn you. There we go. But yeah, I was thinking like how much that would probably mean to a person who like got who finally got like that payoff of being like, acknowledgement. Be it small, that is.
Yeah.
One thing about Kingdom Hearts, which is probably why people remember it so well, or at least in part. I think it's really good at like symbolisms and like little subtle things, like, and like leitmotifs and stuff in the music. There's a part in this trailer I was just watching, and I remember it from when I played the game, but there's a part where like Riku in like his evil uniform, he's like reaching a hand out to Sora, and then it changes into like a tidal wave, and it's like, oh yeah, Riku means ocean. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. That's nice.
Yeah. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about it. I wanted to start off with something real brief just to help us get into the swing of things. I know everybody else has some hefty things to say. So...
Alright, my next game is Kingdom Hearts 2.
Ooh. But yeah, who wants to go next? Anybody want to volunteer?
Oh boy. Do we draw straws?
Rock, paper, scissors.
I'm okay with going third. I just don't want to go next.
Alright.
Okay.
Yeah, Piff, you go next. I feel
I'll-
like let's...
I'll go. I'll
Let me
go.
Get this thing, this fucking gigantic ass video you got me. Hold
Oh
on.
boy.
Just like click in the middle of it somewhere. And...
Yeah, sure, but I hope we start somewhere that's somebody eating somebody's face, you know?
Oh boy.
Just cannibalism, you know, classic.
Yeah.
I
Alright.
suppose as a warning, we will all be talking about vastly different games.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And like I assume vastly different impacts.
Yes.
So, Piff,
Yes.
your
Yo.
game you wanted to talk about was Fallout 3. How did Fallout 3 impact you as a person, or just in general?
I don't think there's a thing that this game didn't impact me with. Like, it has shaped just about every single thing in my life. It is actually, this has been my favorite game for years, and only very recently has it even dwindled to be like tentatively on top. Because I guess the one real downside for me for this one, because of the recent Bethesda stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I am now a little bit more short tempered with the whole like this game is just almost unplayable. Like it crashes constantly. And I think I finally got to a point where I'm just like, I'm kind of fed up with that. But my god. Okay, so for starters, the way I got into this was my brother's like, oh man, you should check this game out. I'm like, what game? I read like an article about it, and it's like, oh, it's amazing, whatever. And that's like almost every article about every new game. But I was young enough that I didn't really know better. I'm like, oh really? Wow, I should check this game out. One of the best games ever. Cool. And it was my introduction to like newer computer games. Like I played super old stuff.
Oh, there's the human flesh!
You
It's
get
fine.
him, eat it. But I got the game and I played it, and it was one of my first experiences, not only with like newer computer games like keyboard and mouse, but also like first-person shooter genre in general. Like this is my first person shooter, first person. Anyway, and it has grown a lot of my tastes in games. It is giving me a lot of like different ideas and like what I like to see within games. And also, I wouldn't be here without this game. I don't mean that in like a morbid sort of way, as in like the entire reason why I even started. I should probably step back a little bit. I got here through streaming.
Mm-hmm.
I streamed a lot, and I got to a point where I got a few more like people that like knew me, hung out with a few more people, and groups upon groups upon groups, and that's how I'm here in this podcast right now. But all started back in college when I was just like, I want to actually be a Let's Player. Back when Let's Playing started to become more of a video format instead of a written format.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I wanted to get into it is because I wanted to play Fallout 3 and showcase this as like a large just chunk of video of me just kind of going like, I love this part of the game, I love this thing, so on and so forth. So I motivated myself to do all of this kind of like video editing and like research into games and all that other stuff just because of this one game. So that's generally my experience with Fallout 3. It was a lot of firsts for me. I loved it to death. And it shaped a lot of who I am and what I like and dislike. Also, very tentatively, I hope this doesn't derail things. I was debating on exactly which game to do, and I had to slim it down from like 20 different games.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was Skyrim.
You know.
So I was just like, if I talk about Fallout 3, Skyrim is bound to be in there, so
Yeah.
tentatively that in there as well.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself when I was deciding who all I wanted to like invite onto this one, and I remember thinking, Piff, you are the person who is probably the most seasoned in video games that I know. You go really, whenever you do play a game, you go really hard into them in more ways than one. And it's always really interesting to watch you play games, but it's always, for me, more interesting than ever whenever you actually, like, find a game that really clicks with you.
Yeah.
So, like, what would you say what parts of Fallout 3 really did, like, click with you?
Oh my goodness, what parts? It is amazing how much of this game that I liked almost from start to finish. I actually really like the opening. That whole entire vault section. It's surprising how much of the game it portrays, how much choice, how many little factors in each and every single spot that you can do. From even just like what presents you take, what you do with the presents, who you talk to, when you do certain things. All of these things factor into tiny, like, different scenes to, like, even the goat, where you can, like, you can take it normally, go to the teacher and be like, I'm done, and leave. Or you can, like, sweet talk your way out of it, say it's kind of dumb, choose your own things and stuff, have it be chosen for you. You can also listen into, like, who else does what and, like, what jobs they get. You can kind of get the feel about, like, the entire environment that you're in.
It's like a miniature version of the world outside.
Yes. To so many, like, different spots within there, especially even when things go nuts, like guns start firing, there's freaking, like, giant rad roaches eating people. That, like, even choices within there have a lot of elaborate different consequences, from having the overseer's daughter to, like, kill a dude, to you basically going over to the overseer and then him going like, hand over all your stuff, and you'd be like, yeah, no, I give up and all that stuff, I don't mind anything, and he'll take every single last item from you and go fool, and then try to kill you, and then you have to survive with no items.
Yeah, that's actually, my time with Fallout 3 was very brief, but one thing I really did enjoy about it when I did play it was that you could just stumble upon the weirdest, most freakiest things. Like, you could run into a vault that had, like, you'd see illusions of your past in there.
Yes, I love. Oh, there's so many small details about that. Like, sometimes in the blue, if you just, like, look over at another, like, computer monitor, it'll start talking about, like, the cool, refreshing taste of new cola, and you're like, what the hell is this? And there's, like, deeper and deeper parts even within there. You can find this, like, weird invisible dude. There's a whole bunch of, like, environmental storytelling, which I loved about the game. They're like, things stumbling upon that happens constantly in this game. There was an unmarked part of the map multiple times, mind you, but, like, there's an unmarked map. You go into, like, a doorway under, like, a bridge, and you just see, like, this weird, like, scene where you just see, like, a lot of plungers everywhere, and you're like,
yeah.
What is this? And you start, like, looking on the walls, like, it's going off the wall, and you, like, trail it up, and it's going, like, on the ceiling. You're like, what the fuck? And you see, like, a dead guy, like, right above where the last plungers are.
He didn't make
not,
it.
Like, not on the roof, but, like, on the floor. So they're like, oh, so this guy tried to be a plunger dude, and then just kind of died.
Yeah. Another thing I really like about it too is that a lot of modern Bethesda games, in my opinion anyways, have the illusion of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, you can go through and it'd be like, yes, in Skyrim, who do you pick, the Imperials or the Stormcloaks? And it doesn't really change anything depending on who you pick, other than some very minor things that are extremely inconsequential to the main line of everything. But here in Fallout 3, you can wipe towns off the map forever.
Yep.
Sure can.
In Skyrim, it's like, you get different armor, and different old people sit on chairs.
It's all inconsequential. It's stuff that
Yeah.
doesn't actually matter, and by the time you get to it, it's the end of the game. But
In
with
fact-
Fallout,
And even in like the main story, it's like that whole Civil War plotline actually gets in the way, and you'll actually feel better about yourself if you pick no side.
but with
Oh.
Fallout, it's like stuff will come up and like your actions have consequences mid-game, not
Yeah.
near the end when you get your 98% of players did this awful, terrible thing. What?
Yeah.
I will say for Fallout 3, there's one glaring problem that is easily something that is the worst part about it. Its main story is good until you find your dad.
Yep.
Until
Mhm.
your dad speaks to you, it's a really, really good story, and then just it's pretty bad until a giant robot shows up, and then it's pretty cool.
That's
Liberty
pretty
Prime!
good again. That's pretty good again.
My favorite thing about Liberty Prime is whenever you walk past any historical monument and he has to stop to salute it.
It's great. I love the guy.
Yeah.
There's so much charm in this game.
Yeah.
There's so much. And it's freaking revolutionary, and I have not found a single game that is like this, where it really rewards the player for almost everything that they do. It's a very giving game, even though it feels like you're in a post-apocalyptic world, you're scrounging for everything, but it's so, like, forgiving, and, like, whenever you go, like, hey, I want to check something out, you could, like, walk past an area, you see, like, a bookshelf with, like, junk on it, and, like, you can't interact with anything, but you might see, like, a box on it. But you can also hit, like, the Z button to, like, grab a hold of the box and pull it down. And there's items in that box. Like, stuff like that. Whenever you come back into the game, you usually find something new. Freaking hacking? You guys, do you know all, like, have you all hacked before in Fallout 3?
Yeah.
Did you know that there's even more mechanics to hacking? There are things that are, like, if you look at the junk lines, if you find a thing that's in brackets or in bars or whatnot that looks like it's basically, like, enclosing a particular section, if you hover over it, it highlights that entire area of just junk text,
Mhm.
and if you click on it, it will, like, remove a dud or, like, give you back all of your,
What?
chances and things like that. Yeah, it's
Is
there. It's been always there.
And that's not like a high level perk? That's just
No,
there?
that's just there.
What the heck?
It's there's, like, each time I come back to the game, I learn something new. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's cheeky.
I loved this game.
Yeah.
You know, this one has been pretty wholesome too, gotta say. Glad we started with you guys.
Yeah.
Alright, I could be done with Fallout 3. I could talk about this for hours.
I mean, if you have something else, like, keep
Yeah.
going. We're good on time.
Okay. So I guess another weak point of it is its followers. Most times, like, if people think of, like, followers in Fallout 3 or in Fallout series, they think of, like, New Vegas. Great characters, tons of personality. They've got, like, their own, like, mini stories and whatnot. In this game, kind of bland, honestly. Like, one of the best companions you have is a dog. He doesn't say anything.
You're just a dog.
Yeah.
Dog.
Speaking of dogs, the dogs upstairs are going frickin' bananas right now, so they gotta sit on mute for a while.
Yeah.
Did they get another dog?
I don't know. I think
Okay.
they might have a dog visiting, which is like egging on their really yappy chihuahua, so it's about time.
Yeah. I do
Talk about the
remember.
faults.
Oh.
Sorry, go ahead, Jamin.
You know, I was gonna say, I do remember one of the followers I was a little interested in getting, unfortunately has a pretty ludicrous requirement to get. He's right in the first town, but I believe you need, like, a perfectly neutral alignment to get him.
Yes.
And that's a little crazy to me. Because,
Huh.
It's a bit crazy. Like, it is. it's not super hard to get neutral, it's hard to keep neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to freaking get, like, good points, freaking drown a hobo in water.
Yeah.
If you want to get freaking evil, super easy. Go in front of, like, a, like, terminal that's, like, you can't... It's bad to even, like, look into it. You just keep going in and out of it. You get bad points real fast.
So we should clarify. When we say drown a hobo in water, we mean donate purified water to a starving man outside the town, which you can do infinitely, and that gives good karma. We do not mean to perform Chinese water torture on an innocent homeless man.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah. You know,
Drowning is just killing a person. Let's get this straight.
You know, drown the hobo.
Yeah, let's talk about the vaults, though.
Yeah, the vaults.
So, Fallout 3 has hands down the best vaults. I don't think there's a single vault that I dislike in there. Because all of them have at least, like, an interesting story. By the way, it's also, like, a really good game
There's
to
a
introduce
door?
people. What?
Sorry, I'm watching the video and I just noticed there's a door in that room. I never saw it before.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's an excellent introduction to the Fallout series. I know some people are very, like, curious about things, and some characters are just like, that's bad because I know that from another game and he doesn't, like, do the thing that he did in that thing, so no. But it's like some, like, NPC that's, like, on the other side of the map in, like, one spot. Anyway, so vaults. You start out in a vault, which is already really interesting because vaults are basically scientific, like, testing grounds of just weird shit that the Vault Corp just made up to, like, let's just test a whole bunch of people. You know, the human race, let's fuck around and see exactly how it comes out. Sorry.
Aperture science.
Basically.
And the vault that you start out with it's supposed to be like no one goes in, no goes out. That's the entire test for that one. You just do. Another one, like the one you're currently seeing right now, this is a virtual reality vault, where people just live in a virtual reality.
Yeah.
I think this vault here was one of the first things that I had ever seen of Fallout 3, and didn't understand what was going on because I'd seen, like, tiny bits and pieces walking into the room watching my brothers play before, but it didn't register to me at the time when I was, like, younger that this was the same game. And, like, this just, like, threw me for a loop when I saw all of this in this vault and, like, just the way that they had, like, set it up. I thought that was super neat.
There's a lot of neat things in here. Like, usually you would look at your Pip-Boy to be like inventory management, and if you do that in this, you'll look at your wrist and it's just like a watch,
Yeah.
like a clock hand.
Yeah, it's like one of those goofy cartoon watches where it's like the character in the middle and their hands pointing at the
That's
things.
cute.
There's a lot to this place. There's a lot to almost every single place in the game. Like, even inside this particular virtual reality thing, and also, like, just the area that is the vault itself, like, before you go into it, there's so much detail and interesting things that you can get and find, and a lot of them will be helpful too. Anyway, so there's the Gary Vault, a freaking vault about a cloning thing, where basically every clone of Gary just became more and more, like, barbaric. Like, there's almost, like, no intelligence left, and you can actually tell that for the weapons that they use, that almost all of the like, higher number ones will be using, like, melee weapons or their fists, and all of the, like, lower number ones will actually have, like, guns.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, a thing in that vault that is surprisingly not on the wiki, and also pretty morbid, so I get warning for that. It is also mentioned that they've become like much more barbaric, like very instinctual, and that's about it. So, I'll just say what the game I think implies. A lot of places in vaults are usually very repeated throughout all the vaults, and try to make the environments different. You kind of have to close off certain areas, open up a few other ones, put a few things in different areas. In this one, there's the male like dormitory, and then there's the female one, and the female one is barricaded from the inside.
Yep.
Yep.
Don't want to deal with that.
And that's the only thing that they ever say about it. It is only an environmental thing. That's it. There's they never write it down. It is never said. It is never implied, except for that one environmental thing. That's it.
That's good storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Garys are. I'll just run through a few of the other ones. So another one's been like sound stuff where they put a whole bunch of like famous instruments peoples into a vault, and they make the sound test that makes this kind of weird like mind control sound thing, but the person in charge basically made them all go insane. Something like that. There's this thing that intentionally has this like hallucinogen in the air vents, and it's just there. They just decide, hey, why don't we just put hallucinogens in there? There's also a small there's a vault for making humans into super soldiers that are also then becoming super mutants.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah. I one vault that's not in 3, but I really like the concept behind it, was actually the vault from that you start out in Fallout 1. The experiment behind that vault was that they built the vault specifically so that it would not be able to sustain itself.
Yep.
And the I think the oh, there it is. The vaults, basically it's like, vaults have this thing called water chips that basically will provide them with water and all that garbage. But the gimmick with that vault's like, we're out. We don't got any more. We're going to die. So they had to send out people into the wasteland to try to find other vaults to obtain a water chip of their own. But you keep on like going around, you keep on failing to find it, yada yada. But I did just like the idea that's like, let's see what happens if we give these people an ideal life where they do not need to hunt or find anything. Everything is handed to them, and then just randomly, they'll take it away. Won't happen. And they'll have to figure out how to deal with it. I find that pretty interesting, actually. That they're like willing to do such morbid levels of experiments just for the sake of experimentation.
Yeah, no, Vault-Tec is basically, it's just based on the idea of how many different separate contained social experiments can we perform with all of this crazy nuclear money. And some of it kind of works, some of it obviously has completely unexpected results, but I guess that's what happens when you use people as lab rats.
Yeah.
I will say briefly, New Vegas had a lot of really neat concepts, but they didn't really like have the player really explore the concept. A lot of the times in Fallout 3, you kind of get introduced and you're not sure what's going on, but the more and more like you find notes or things happen to you, or like you press certain buttons and you like in the weird sound thing, you like press a button, you hear like a bit of static, and then it stops, and you're just like, that's weird.
Yeah.
But then you like figure out like what that static is. Why is it bad?
Yeah.
In New Vegas, a lot of the times it's like very upfront. Like, I think there was a vault that's just like separated. There's just like people on different sides.
Yeah. Thank you, Karakuda, for subscribing.
Yeah, nice. There was one that was actually very interesting. That was just like, this was their control vault. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a vault.
Hmm.
Didn't really explore it that much.
Yeah.
Basically, you just walk in there and be like, bandits took it over.
Yeah, it's
Shrug.
really weird when you do look at the number of control vaults there are. 'Cause aren't there only like 24 control vaults out of the hundreds of vaults there are?
I don't know.
Like a really small amount of people not getting fucked with.
Yeah. Let's see. The one that I really liked in specifically New Vegas was, I guess, a bit of spoilers for it. The Sacrifice Vault. That one had the perfect, like, what's going on. You kind of explore more. It really is like an unfolding story, and I think Fallout 3 did that very well, and I wish that happened a lot more in New Vegas, and a lot of just other games in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about with Fallout 3?
Oh my goodness, yeah, no, I should probably stop. Again, I could talk about this literally for hours. You have to stop me.
I think that is a pretty good switch off point. Let me just... Oops. Ignore that. So, who wants to go next?
I want to hear Civ go crazy.
Oh, I don't know if that'll happen. So, I guess maybe I should go last so we end on maybe a lighter note.
I mean, mine's not gonna be morbid or anything. It's just gonna be me being crazy.
All right, okay. I'll go next.
All right. Get this set up. Okay, so Civ, what was it that you wanted to talk about?
A game that has had an impact on me is a game I've never played. Not once in my life.
I played it.
She played it. So, I'm notorious for not actually playing games physically, merely watching other people play them, because that is just how I had access to them, mostly growing up. And Amy, being my lifelong buddy, was the first person who I ever witnessed playing Nier, Gestalt, and Replicant, which is a game that I love to hate, I hate to love. It is honestly, it took over my brain for probably a solid year. When I was first introduced to this game was, I think Amy was playing it. I had no idea what it was. I think she had maybe been playing it for a few days beforehand, and I just like came over to her house. I was like, hey, what's this? And I didn't know what was happening.
You want to know the story of how I first heard about Nier?
Was it Sponge?
No, I heard about it before this. I actually owned the game before he brought it up and was like, everyone should play this, it's really good. I was on YouTube one day, and I think I was just listening to music or something, and I scrolled down to the comments. I think it was a song that was like sad or something, or it was talking about like a sad video game or something, and someone went, you know, the only game that I've ever experienced that's sadder than this is Nier. And I was like, what's Nier? So I looked it up.
15-year-old Amy went, give me that.
And I was like, I want to play that. I had literally no other context. I just Googled it, and I walked over to EB Games, and they had a used copy, so I was like, wow. Cool. And that's how I got it.
So, I guess she was playing it for a few days, and then I came over and watched her play for a few more hours, and I was just instantly so enraptured by it because I understood nothing. Everything looked miserable and whimsical and awful, and people were swearing. There was a woman wearing no clothing. There was a big man who was angry. We found a floating book.
I think I started it again for you.
You probably did. But this game just had instantly so many things that I had never seen before in a video game, alongside things that I was completely used to. You know, the big hulking angry man protagonist, that's normal. But the scantily clad female, like, sidekick, I don't know, what, she's so much more than that, but the scantily clad female character was she's your friend, she's everything.
Party member, there we go.
Party member. Yeah. But her character and just the way she was presented was so different from any other character like that I'd ever seen, because the opening cutscene is her literally cussing out one of the other characters, trying to get them to snap out of some sort of spell they're under.
Vice, you dumbass!
Yes!
Can't start
So-
the game without hearing that.
My girl Kaine is just incredible. How do I even transition into some? I haven't like prepared any of this in my head, so I'm just gonna be blabbing and rambling. I have no coherent, proper, lined up thoughts. I think just generally this game, I found it. I guess I stumbled upon it with Amy at a point in my life where I was very, very, like, creatively starved, I suppose, and, I'm like, I can't say I'm a writer because I've never actually properly sat down, written anything come to fruition, but I'm a creator, and this was one of the first games that came to me in a time when I was so creatively starved for, like, new ideas and new perspectives that, like, I just ate it up. Everything in this game to me felt like some sort of twist on something I was used to, or just a completely different perspective on something that I never even considered. So I'll give you, I guess, a brief rundown of the plot of it for those who don't know, because I think most of the people in the Stabbiness Discord have heard me scream about this game before, or at least aware of it, because a lot of people in like our mod area are huge fans of it. And a lot of you, of course, probably know it from Nier Automata, which came out a few years later and is massively more popular than the originals for many reasons. But so, the general plot of it is that you are this man, or depending on which game you get, it is either a brother trying to help his younger sister, or a father trying to help his daughter. And his daughter, named Yona, is sick, and she thinks that the only thing that can help her sickness is finding something called a lunar tear, which is a flower. And so you are living this sad little farm life or whatever, and the game we played was Nier Replicant, so,
Yeah, that's actually the only version that's available here in the West. The brother option is Japan only.
Yeah, that's Gestalt. So, we know Papa Nier. So what it is you're Papa Nier, and you're just trying to do what you can to keep your daughter alive and live like a humble little life, while your tiny village, sorry, I just had a Coke, so I'm all burpy.
That's fun.
So you're just trying to live your humble life in this village while, like, these strange things called shades start, like, becoming more and more commonplace. I think they're currently being shown on screen here. So what happens is...
What are shades?
What are shades? Now, I'm not going to tell you just right off, because
Well,
that is
yeah,
a
but-
late game spoiler. Shades are
Yeah.
just like these creepy little jumbly monsters made of colors, and they come after you and just attack you, and you can just kill them. But they're very similar to like Kingdom Hearts, Nobodies and Heartlesses and all that kind of stuff or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know the exact one because there's like a million names for that.
Same
But-
thing. Different name.
Same thing, different name. It actually is. They talk about that in the development. It was inspired by it. I can talk about that later. I'll talk about that later. Okay? I know. So what happens is, Yona, your little girl, she's only like, I don't know, maybe 10 years old or something, but she's lived a very sheltered life, and she wants to be independent, and she wants to go out and find this flower for herself. So one day she toddles off to go and do it for herself, and you have to go and find her, obviously, because your daughter just ran away to do something stupid. So on your way to find her, you basically go into this big abandoned temple area and unearth this thing called a grimoire. His name is Grimoire Vice, and he is a book that floats and talks and gives you sass. And you find out that what was it Yona did? She went there and then she fell asleep or something.
She got kidnapped by the Shadow Lord.
That doesn't happen till a little bit later.
But
It does happen.
It happens.
You find this book, and he's got magic powers, and he becomes like your party member. He becomes like your spellmaster guy. And through that, you start finding all of these things called words, which are your different types of magic powers. And then you go around doing JRPG side quests for thousands of years, forever and ever and ever. And then you meet your other party members. Kaine, she's the crazy lady who wears no clothing and swears like a sailor, and she's voiced by Laura Bailey, my girl.
She sure is.
Yeah, and then you meet your other party member is this nice little blind boy named Emil, and he's very soft-spoken and a little cutie pie, and he's got magic powers where if he looks at you, he petrifies you. And eventually what happens is, once you have Yona back home and safe, she's no longer back home and safe, because this giant monstrous man named the Shadow Lord comes and kidnaps her. And that is when shit starts popping off. Because as soon as Yona is kidnapped, what has to happen in order for the town to not be destroyed midway through is Kaine sacrifices herself and becomes petrified by Emil so that she can block a door forever. And there's a 5-year time skip after that. And what happens after that is when I started to go, oh my god, because me and Amy, while I was watching her play, we had to take like a break to, because we were playing it for like hours and hours during one day. And then I went home later that day and I was talking to my buddy Sponge, who had already played this game. And I was like, oh man, we're playing Nier. And Sponge was like, oh my god, did you all know all this stuff and this stuff and this stuff about it? Just like casually sprouting off all this lore. And I was like, no? What? I need to understand this. We have to play more of this game. What is happening? And so I go back like a few days later to, there's spoilers for Nier here. So
this game is like over 10 years old.
10 years
now.
old. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of niche, so, not many people played it. But, so I go back to Amy's a few days later, and we're like, we gotta play this. And I'm sitting here with all of this partial knowledge, like little bits and pieces that I know the content, but I don't know why. And I know that certain things are gonna happen because Sponge has told me certain things about characters, and Amy knows nothing. I've kept everything secret. And so we dive back into the game, and this 5-year time skip has started happening. And the first thing you notice after that is those shades that are your common stock enemies that you fight. They start to become a lot more like interactive in a way that is unexpected because they start to become more humanoid. They start wearing armor that they've just made out of plates and shields and things they found on the ground. When you kill them, there's different like types of shades that you run into, and they're like either small ones, big ones, or like big chonky ones, or like fast ones. And different shades drop different items. And so some shades will drop like necklaces and like bracelets and wristwatches and stuff like that. And then some shades will drop things like used coloring book and old school book. And
I remember those, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can go too ham into the spoilers, actually, but
No,
say
I
what you
do,
will.
because this is how it affected me.
Oh, all
This
right.
is how it had an impact on me. Was when the 5-year time skip happens and they start developing more and more humanoid things, what you start to notice with them also is you start hearing things throughout the game, because Nier is made by our boy Yoko Taro, and he is infamous for having multiple endings in his games. And the more playthroughs that you have, the more secrets become unearthed. And so the more and more playthroughs you go through, the shades start becoming more humanoid. They start doing things that you're not expecting. And they also start making voices and sounds. And that was the first time in a game that like I had experienced, I wouldn't call it like them doing something meta, but it was the first time
Humanizing the enemy, I guess.
Humanizing the enemy, but it kind of, what it did was it kind of took me out of what I was doing, and like my immersion was broken, and then my immersion was broken because I realized what they were doing with the enemies, but then my perspective was completely changed because you start to kill these things that are more and more human, and it makes you think of like, oh my god, all the rest of these things that I've been doing in the rest of the game. It was the first time that I'd seen a game make you think about the things you've done, and like think about the consequences that you're gonna have to face, because obviously this is gonna lead to something more. so I think just like generally when I experienced that the first time and noticed like, oh my god, this world that we have been playing this game in, this seemingly dismal world that has like not a whole lot explained about what's actually going on. Like, why is everything so bright? Why are all these people so like generic, like NPCs? Like, why does there feel like there's no progress almost in like the lives of these people? But when they drop the reason why, like why all this is happening, huge spoilers, is because it's like the vaults. It's supposed to be kept sterile and the same thing forever and ever. It's supposed to be a contained thing where your people living your fantasy JRPG life were supposed to do that until the right time. And then when you find out in the game what the right time is, you start unlocking the rest of the storylines and the different endings, and then Nier just goes fucking crazy. And it was like the first time I had seen a game that was that like not, I don't know how to phrase it, as maybe not interactive, but like in depth, and that much like that would make you question yourself as a player. And it was just like, at the time, like I said, since I was so just like creativity starved, it was like giving me an entire new way to look at characters and settings and like the way that plots can unfold. And it especially impacted me because it felt similar to the way that I had been wanting to write things, which is that I had this awful problem as a creator of I'm really bad at making up the plot after the start of the plot. I end up making backstories for every single character and setting and everything. And then when I played Nier, it was like looking at somebody do that successfully the way that I wanted to. And I was just like, this is it. This guy's got it. He's got this figured out. This is when all the plot twists happen that make you go, and that's why this guy was there, and that's why he said this thing. And it was like, it was completely validating from a creative perspective.
Yeah, of all the things that Nier does really well, and it does do a couple of things very, very well. One of the best things I think it does is it's good at recontextualizing things. Like, a lot of things that you would just take for granted and, like, it's the norm, like, oh, we're forming a party because it's a JRPG thing, the town is, like, sleepy and happy and nobody does anything because it's a JRPG thing. It'll, like, flip it on its head later down the line, and you'll be like, man, fuck!
None of this is happy and sleepy. None of it!
Lots of, existentialism, too.
Yeah, no, as a whole, Nier's...
Of course, but anyone who's played Automata will get that feel as well. Yeah. A different flavor of it, but yeah, Yoko Taro likes the big questions.
He likes the big questions.
Similar question to what I asked Piff. Other than like the general storytelling and things like that, is there anything else that like clicked with you with this and whatnot?
For me, Kaine as a character. So spoilers again. Something about Kaine that you don't find out unless you do your homework and actually play like all of the game and all of the side stories and the side content that isn't released like officially and you have to find crappy translations, yada yada. That's half the Nier experience. The thing about Kaine is that, if you could pull up a picture of her for chat so that they can see.
Sure.
She is an intersex character, and that is something that is like the way that they deal with her character in the game is so unexpected. And like, so normally whenever there's a character who has a quote-unquote abnormal sexuality or gender presentation, of course, it's like demonized or it's considered weird and strange. And this game does take that concept of something being weird or strange because it's not the norm, and they make it a part of the character in a way that empowers them rather than making them the problem or the outsider. And what I loved about it is that even though that is a part of Kaine, that's not her entire character. her entire character is something like so much more and so different from what they would normally do with that character. So like you look at her design and it is super sexualized. It is completely scantily clad and she is just like hustling around, absolutely kicking ass and just being a badass the entire game. But her appearance, there's no attention drawn to it. She doesn't comment on it. She doesn't. There aren't any cringe anime moments where they're like, oh, her boobs. Ugh. They're not like that. It's her character is everything else about her, which is an excellent character.
I mean, the only attention that's really called to it is Whitmore Vice constantly calling her a hussy. But that's like the extent of it.
That's the extent of it, and he would call anybody a hussy. He doesn't care. He's a little bastard.
I will say also, you said, the fact that she's intersex isn't like the only interesting thing about her. There's lots of things. At the same time, the fact that she's intersex is like has very obviously shaped her as a character, which is like the correct way.
Yes.
So it's like
that's what I meant by saying
when you find out like the particulars of her backstory, you're like, oh, it makes sense why she's like the way she is. But at the same time, if you don't know the backstory, it's not like you know what I'm saying? It's still a full character without that backstory.
It's just adding some extra toppings to it, really.
Yeah, it's like a context,
Another reason to identify with the character and like relate to them more. Kaine, I find, personally, is a very relatable character because she is somebody who is not, I guess, she's not like cisgendered and she's typically feminine in certain ways, but she's an angry lady. And she's allowed to do that, and her sexuality and her gender is her own, and it's like, it was the first time that I'd seen the typical sexy lady character not just be like, a seductress or anything like that. She was like the most powerful woman I'd seen at the time.
Yeah, she's great.
Yoko Taro loves the characters in Nier, in the first Nier game. He deeply, deeply loves those characters, and it comes across in varying ways, but once you figure out, like, how he loves them and what they mean to him, I think, it's really what gets to me.
Alright. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about with Nier, or...?
The music!
The music?
The music. The OST is composed by Keiichi Okabe, and Keiichi Okabe also does the OST for Drakengard 3, and I don't know about the other two Drakengards, possibly, maybe, probably not, you'll have to fact check me on that, but he does the music for Nier and then Nier Automata, and also Sino Alice, and probably a bunch of other stuff that he works on. But the music for Nier has probably been the most, like, immersive side thing that, like, so usually in video games when you're a kid or when you're younger or when you don't really actually pay attention to video game stuff that much, you don't notice the music. You think like, oh, this town's got a funny little theme, this is great, but like, music, whatever. But this game has a way of doing music and having the themes, the leitmotifs, the actual like vocals and everything ties into the lore, because all of the vocal tracks that are in this game that aren't sung in English, there's only like 5 tracks in the game that are sung in actual languages. There's English, there's Japanese, I think there's like French, there's I don't know, can't count them, can't list them off. Everything else is done in this language called Chaos language / Angelic, that was written by the singer that worked with Keiichi Okabe, Emmy Evans. And she basically was tasked with writing a musical language that sounds like, spoilers, it was English and everything else at the time, but like thousands of years in the future, how language would sound in the future in music. And so that it is literally taking the world building and the setting and putting it in the music by having it all around you. It's like, it's so beautiful. The music is so beautiful.
Yeah, what's really cool is the songs that are in that Chaos language, which sounds like vaguely English, but like also kind of Germany and like kind of Spanishy. It's made up, so you can't really like tell. But you're like, it sounds like just to the left of familiar, and then you'll hear like a song like that, and then later on in the OST, it'll be that song again, but it's in English, and you're like, oh, and like usually you have to do like subsequent playthroughs to hear the English version, and it's only then that you're like, oh fuck, oh no, that's what that meant. Oh,
Yeah. Actually, you brought it up on a good timing. It's actually on my end, the OST started playing one of those songs, I think.
if you're hearing words and you can't understand them, probably.
Yeah.
Nier is just a lot for me. It opened up my creative horizons to what I could do. Like, it showed me what I was trying to do, done well, and done grandly, I suppose. It's a really weird game because as a whole, it feels very small and sometimes lonely, but when you find out what the actual plot is and everything, you find out that it's not small and lonely because it is literally everything in the world is what the plot is hinging on, is the entirety of humanity, and it just takes you right out of your seat when you figure everything out, and yeah, I don't know.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say about it before we move on?
I like Nier 1 more than Nier Automata. Don't fight me on it.
I'm tired of fighting.
I'm tired of fighting.
Alright.
I agree. I also like Nier 1 better than Automata, even though I haven't fully completed Automata. I think I've done most of it at this point. And I don't really like the gameplay that much of Nier 1, but Nier 1 just has like... It's an experience that is hard to replicate. Ha ha ha. You won't really find it anywhere else, and despite the gameplay being kind of lackluster, especially if you're...
Piff can tell you better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Yes, Piff.
Especially if you don't have like a high tolerance for like JRPG isms. It's gonna be a little bit of a slog, but it definitely has some high points. But the thing you come back for, and the thing you stay for, and the thing you remember is the characters, is the story, is the music, is like everything else about it is worth looking at. So watch a playthrough maybe if you have to.
I mean, that's technically what I did.
Yeah, do what Sid did, and you'll be inspired forever. That's the hack, guys. If you want to become Civ, just watch a playthrough of Nier.
I don't want more me's running around. I'm problem enough.
Yeah, but, yeah. Moving on, so we can get to the final part of this. Yam.
It's my turn. It's chaos time.
Yeah, what was it that you wanted to talk about?
So, I wanna talk about PT.
A game that doesn't exist anymore.
A game that doesn't exist. It was hardly a game. It was a game, but it also wasn't a game. It was like the spark of something. It was the hope on the horizon. It was snuffed out by cruel corporations.
PT was small death incarnate.
PT is the game that triggers such intense emotions in me on such opposite spectrums. Also, this is the footage that I will be playing because I told J-Men to play this nice footage of kittens playing because PT is very scary, and I don't want to subject that to you nice people, so you can have some nice relaxing music and some kittens and think of good times and remember, nice things. But yes, very intense emotions on opposite spectrums. I think of PT and I think of like joy and intrigue and mystery and all the fun I had trying to figure it out. And
You were in so deep. You were neck deep.
Oh my goodness. And then I remember what happened to it, and I experienced grief and sadness and intense anger. And of course, you can't really talk about PT without mentioning how fucking terrifying it is. But yeah, when this thing was released, it didn't take very long for the. I guess I should explain. I think most people know what PT is, but I'll explain just for the sake of it. Back in 2014, horror games, the recognition, it was kind of like a lost art. People didn't really take them seriously, and they kind of still don't. Cheap shock value things in movies and games, nobody took them seriously. And then, 1 year this trailer comes out. I think it was at an E3 or some kind of game show.
I think it was E3.
It might have been E3. They showed a trailer of like this indie horror game. It was one of those like catch-all, like, oh man, look at these people playing this game in the dark, and we put in a night vision camera. Look at them scream at the scary game. Oh my goodness. You could download it right now for free. Go check it out. And of course, people checked it out. But it didn't take very long for people to find out that, oh, actually, this isn't just some indie developed, cheap horror scare bait shit. It's a game being developed by Hideo Kojima of Metal Gear Solid fame, Guillermo del Toro of what did he do?
Various movie fame.
Various Pan's Labyrinth, horror movies.
Crimson Peak.
And
Crimson
it was
Peak.
going to be the next installment in the Silent Hill series, titled Silent Hills.
Yeah,
That was the working title.
At that point, it seemed like a very promising bet, because the previous entries in the series at that point had a pretty rough set of ones that came out. Because we had
Basically, Konami is horrible at managing.
Junji Ito.
That came out later, that Junji Ito was going to be involved as well. And again, the grief. But anyway, at this time, Silent Hill as a series, though very critically acclaimed, especially Silent Hill 2, which is the soundtrack that's playing right now, very, very beloved by fans, but it's sort of like gone to the wayside. The more games that had come out in the series, the worse they seem to get. The game was just, sold and handled off to like different developers who I guess didn't really respect or understand what made the games very interesting and so beloved in the first place.
Yeah.
So, people just wrote the series off as dead, it'll never recover. But fucking Hideo Kojima, fucking Guillermo del Toro, who's so experienced in writing horror things and had been looking to do like a video game thing for so long, it was a spark of joy. Everyone was so fucking excited. And you know what? That announcement alone would have been enough to get everyone super excited and hyped. But that's not what happened, because Hideo Kojima can never do anything normally. He made an entire, like,
mini game.
Playable teaser. Like, what the fuck is it? Not even a demo. What the fuck is a playable teaser? Right? Like, this isolated thing wasn't even going to be in the game as a whole. It was just, like, a showcase. It was them, like, showing off, like, do you like this? There's going to be more of this, but it's going to be completely different and new, and you have no fucking idea what it's going to be. And even, like, without the Silent Hill name attached to it, PT and Isolation is one of the best horror experiences ever. Not just for being dense and interesting and full of like just depth and storytelling, but for being so scary, so fucking scary.
Amy, we gotta talk about the Halloween story.
Yeah.
You have
I do
to
want
let me tell them.
I do want to bring up something real quick about something I do with like some Silent Hill games. The later ones did lose this aspect. Whenever I look at like a Silent Hill game, I get like a sense of a color or a tone whenever I look at them. Like with Silent Hill 1, I see like a big red, a whole lot of red and gray.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2 is like blue and all that, and Silent Hill 3 is like rust. Whenever I look at PT, the image that comes to my head is static. Like nauseating static.
There's a part in the game that's very staticky. So if I actually don't remember the Halloween story. Oh no, wait, yes I do.
Of course you do.
Oh wait, I remember it now. So I'll preface this with a bit of something. But anyway, when this thing came out, and the fact that it was going to be the new Silent Hill game was super interesting and exciting, and I was super interested and excited because I love the Silent Hill series. I especially love Silent Hill 2. But just, like the meat of it, without the Silent Hill title, was just so interesting to me. I went freaking crazy from the months in between, like when the game came out, and it was getting like a lot of like coverage, like people were playing it because it was like the new scary thing to play. It was, the new Five Nights at Freddy's or whatever. So everyone was playing it, but also like everyone was talking about it and everyone was trying to figure out what was going on in it. So like those months between like that PT coming out and when it was announced that the whole project was canceled and the thing was going to be removed from the store, the PlayStation Store forever, I was like possessed.
She was like goddamn Charlie. She was like goddamn Charlie Day with the red string.
like I wake up and it's all I could think about. I was like, what do the messages mean? The phone.
I'm gonna BRB. Keep talking.
Okay, the fucking like phone messages, the things in different languages that would like pop up on your screen. What did the picture mean? What's the final loop puzzle? Like the 204863, what does it mean? And like the whole gimmick of the 204863 thing is that it's sort of not meant to be anything, because in the story there's like a radio announcer when you start up the game is basically just explaining like a news story of like there's been a trend recently of fathers committing homicide and just like killing their families. And, that's a spooky thing to play in a house, a haunted house. So, it's a mood setter. But if you keep listening, you find out that, like, all the dads have become obsessed with this number, 204863. And, that's scary. But then, like, you go, like, farther into the game, and sometimes the radio announcer will just say that string of numbers, and you're like, what does it mean? What does it mean? There's like a fake error screen, I think, that also has the string of numbers. So you're like, what does it mean? And people were like, eventually, when it came out to be that Hideo Kojima was involved, they were like, oh, the numbers actually line up to mean his birthday, which is like, 1986 or I don't remember his exact birthday, but you can kind of like line up the numbers to spell out or whatever his birthday. But like even then, if you look at it, the numbers aren't in the right order exactly. Like you have to rearrange them a little bit. So it's like, is that what it means? So people were like, okay, well then what do the numbers mean? Is it a key? Is it a cipher? Is it gonna mean something? Are we just never gonna find out? But like that was sort of the point. People were just running around going crazy over this number, just like the people that, like, the fathers in, like, the murder stories. Like, that's great!
Yeah,
that's awesome! But anyway, that was me. I was a crazy father. Just sat in front of my computer like, what did this mean?
Also, real quick, watch out if you're tapping on your desk, it's causing a bit of noise.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting
no.
I'm getting
you knew that, Amy.
But anyway, I was obsessed with finding out everything I could about this game. I watched like all of the major playthroughs. I've seen all the walkthroughs. I knew all the loop puzzles. I knew how to solve all of them. I knew where Lisa the ghost could spawn. I know where she couldn't. I knew how to do all the triggers. I knew how to beat the game without ever seeing Lisa at all. And then Halloween came by, and one of my friends had the game still on their PS4, and you know they weren't going to delete it or anything. And it was Halloween, so we were like, "Hey, we should play PT because it's scary." And I was like, "Yeah, we could do this. I know I'm like a walkthrough for this game. It'll be fine. Let's do it." And Sid was like, "I'll play."
No. See, what happened was all of that, yes, but Amy is a weenie. Amy is the biggest weenie and is terrified of horror movies and ghosts and jump scares and all of that stuff. But Amy also loves it in certain contexts. So Amy, who had suffered months and months of immersing herself in all of PT, had never actually played it. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it. I'm not scared of nothing because I'm notoriously, I don't give a shit. I'll just go out and watch whatever the hell. And I don't get scared by stuff. But I'm also a gremlin and I'm not good at video games. So all of these things combined into the biggest fucking grease fire called me with the controller, not knowing how to play video games or even hold a PS3 controller? 3 or 4?
4.
4. Hold a PS4 controller. Bumbling my way around while Amy backseat game ventriloquist me to figuring out what was going on. And see, since it was Halloween, we were already a little, of course, tiny bit boozed. So, everything was going fine. Amy was losing her mind every 5 seconds when something would happen. We were getting it all right and stuff like that, but I was still doing very badly at the game. Until, like, one of the loops, when you go around, like, the hallway, I was like, hey, guys, let's do this one backwards so she can't get me. So I start going around the entire loop with my character walking backwards. And stuff was working, but Amy, because she'd never seen anybody do this, I guess, didn't know what to expect and completely wigged out and turned the game off and wouldn't let me finish. She got too freaked out that I was gonna do something wrong and Lisa was gonna apparate from the roof and kill us.
Because I knew at that point that the trigger for getting her to jump you and is to turn around.
But you can't turn around if I'm already turned around, so how is she gonna spawn? Does she spawn based on your back or based on the floor?
I know now that I think it's triggered by, like, actually turning around, because there's a phase, in certain loops, there's like haunting loops, I guess is what you could call them, when like a special scary music kind of plays. And in those moments, when the scary music is playing, is when she can appear and jump you. I think I didn't really like know that at the time. I just knew that the way to get her to appear was to turn around. And you started one of those loops by turning around. So I was like, oh my god. Because here's the thing about Lisa. Her design is like almost specifically like made to scare me personally. She, like, all of the things about her is I find absolutely terrifying. I think she's terrifying, like, for anybody, but for me, the worst. And she's got, like, the smile, I think, is what gets me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, she does, like, the jitter thing, and that's awful. And also, I'm like, I have, like, a weird, like, very specific phobia of, like, vaguely human shapes, but like not enough detail in them to be called human. So like vaguely like white or featureless things, or black featureless things at the end of hallways. And that's all that game is. So yeah, I'm very yeah. Lisa's not kind to me. Lisa's also the name of my sister, so that's funny.
It was funny. It did add a bit to the experience. Just real quick, I want to say, so this game clearly affected Amy so much that one time when we were out for coffee, years later, We were out for coffee and we were chilling down at a table, just hanging out.
I don't think I know this story.
We were in the middle of a conversation, just talking about whatever the hell, and she just stops, looks stock straight at me or near me, just dead serious, just no expression on her face, goes, "Look behind you," and I just. What? And I looked right at her. I was like, "What?" And I'm not looking behind me. I'm just sitting there, like, "What do you mean, look behind me? What? Turn around. Look behind you." And I'm like, "What are you doing? Are you pulling a prank on me?" She says, "No, do it. Look around." And I turn around, and one of my other friends is there and hadn't noticed me, and so we were sitting like back to back. But I legitimately, for a moment, thought Amy was possessed.
Okay, I do remember that now. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. PT had a huge impact on like that period of time in my life between like I think it was late 2014 to early 2015 when it was announced that it was canceled. I think that's the date range.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God. What were you gonna say, J-Man?
Oh, nothing. I was just going to like point out that one of the craziest things to me was like sometime last year, I think, someone made a like hack of the game where you could see the behind of your character.
Oh yes, I was gonna bring that up, but keep going.
You know, it's just like, oh yeah, no, like Lisa is literally always behind you at all times.
Well, not at all times. It's specifically in the time. So there's certain loops where if you pay enough attention, I think it's actually the loop after you get the flashlight for the first time, or one of the loops shortly after you get the flashlight. But if you're walking down the hall, all the lights in the hallways will suddenly, turn off one by one. And you just have your flashlight as a light source. If you look around, you will see like what's supposed to be your shadow on the walls, but it's like jittering a bit the way like Lisa's does, and you're like, oh no, what does that mean? And it's just there to freak you out. The way they achieve that effect is by literally putting Lisa's model behind you and have her like kind of almost like perfectly attached to your back. It's to like what's the word? Organically, I guess, create the shadow. So like just know now every time you see footage of people walking through that loop and you see the shadow, yeah, Lisa is actually there behind you.
Yeah, it's a trick of perspective.
You know what's even scarier?
What's that?
You know that one loop where you turn the corner and Lisa's there standing at the hallway, and it's just a shadow, and like the lamp is like swinging over you, and if you walk towards her, the light will turn off, and if you keep walking, it'll turn back on, and then there's bugs everywhere, and she's gone. Yeah. Well, the same person that figured out, you got the footage of her attaching to your back. Is a guy named Lance McDonald, by the way. His Twitter is ManFightDragon. He has a YouTube channel, which I highly recommend checking out. He's a person, or one of the first people to figure out like how to hack cameras in like PS4 games specifically. So he was really the first person to like go into PT and get all of these like hacked camera footages, and this stuff only came out last year, by the way, so people are still thinking about this game. Just putting that out there. But yeah, Lance McDonald, look him up. He's got great stuff, but he doesn't just do stuff on PT, he's got a bunch of stuff on like Bloodborne, actually, if you're really into that, and like the Dark Souls games where he takes the camera in weird places and looks at like debug menus and stuff like that. But anyway, so he figured out that a lot of the ways in which PT operates is that it just has like things set in the hallway, which, when the player does certain things, there are triggers that just turn the things on and off. So that moment, that one loop where Lisa's at the end of the hallway and you see her there, and then she disappears, is an instance where one of those triggers are. So literally all that the game does is that when the player acts in that is walking in that certain loop, the trigger turns on, and the trigger is literally just make the model visible, make Lisa visible. So that she's there the entire game, just invisible in that spot.
Don't like that!
Right? That's fucking scary!
So, I'm gonna toss out the same question I did toss to Piff and Civ. What would you say is the thing in PT, though, that made it click with you?
I think the biggest thing, and the real reason why I got so obsessed with it, is just...
Lisa Tall.
No. No. It's the way that the story is presented. It's both vague and very descriptive. It always feeds you like just enough, like any good horror, it always feeds you just enough to make you feel like you have a grasp of it, but then yanks the rest away and shrouds it in mystery and makes you question like what's going on. And you never ever get full answers. So you have to, make them on your own, really. And so many great theories have been born from trying to figure out what's up with PT. And I love them all. It's amazing. I love all the different interpretations that can come from it. Which is part of the reason why I delved into it so much, because I needed to know all of the things. I wanted to know all the possible readings and everything. I wanted to know everything about it. And it was great because I think it was probably one of the first things that made me actually take horror like really seriously. At least the horror that's just like super scary, because I always liked Silent Hill 2, but I liked it more for the very personal storytelling. It is a horror game and it is scary, but the biggest draw of Silent Hill 2 for me was the psychology and of the characters, and the very personal stories that each of the characters brought and told, and how they were told, and all that thing. But PT was just scary, and all scary, but it was still fascinating. So I kind of became like obsessed with like the mechanics of horror. Like, how do you make something unsettling? How do you make things alien? How do you scare people? What are the do's and the don'ts? I started thinking about that really critically, and PT started happening when I was still in university. So there was a time where I did an English major, so you have to take a critical theory course, at least in the university that I went to. I imagine you do in the others as well, but you need to study like the critics, the famous ones, the philosophers, the people that have been talking about literature for years and years, and like the history of it.
Yeah.
And we specifically got to one such critic. His name is Edmund Burke. He talks about the idea of aesthetics and sublimity, which the sublime in critical theory is the idea of something that is large and enormous. It's the thing in art where you experience it and you're sort of deprived of all emotion except wow. It's that moment when you look at a painting, you're like, holy shit, and you can't even think of anything else. It's sublime. And he talks about like what it means to experience the sublime, and like pain and pleasure and joy and grief, and I would be listening to the lecture from my prof, and I'd be thinking, this is what PT does to me. So I wrote an entire presentation on like the mechanics of horror and how horror can be sublime, and why people even are attracted to horror media in the first place, especially people like me who are terrified. And I got a good grade on it, so that was cool. And and then I just became known.
You're tapping.
I'm sorry. And then I just became known in like the department as like the horror girl for a while. So that was fun. But yeah, I have fun times. Fun times with PT.
Nice. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about it? No big deal if you don't got anything else.
I guess just like a recommendation. If you can brave it out, it's a fun time. But just know that you will be scared. Actually, PT is so terrifying to me that even talking about it or thinking about it too hard will make me think about it, and then I'm gonna have a hard time leaving my room tonight, is all I'm saying. Because
you're all alone, Amy!
Because I'm all alone. It is dark now. Outside of my room is a hallway. There are mirrors in my house. I'm not gonna have a good time. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay.
Well, that was really fun to listen, actually.
Thank you.
Well, I think that is actually a excellent place to start wrapping up what we got here.
Yeah!
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming out to watch this. Please do, if you have any games that had an impact on you yourself, please do share your stories, like at me on Twitter with them, or post about them in the J-Man's Game Stuff chat on Stabbiness. I am genuinely very interested in hearing what folks have to say. Also, we have also over at Surprise Round RPG, the folks over there are doing a tabletop RPG stream right now. If you want to hop over and join that. But just as the last leave things off, thank you to my guests for coming out and talking about this stuff. I actually really think everybody did fucking fantastic on this one.
Thank you for inviting us, J-Man.
Normally my near rants are they are not something that they're spontaneous. They're not asked for, so
yeah. But
we got the pure experience.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming out. I'm going to raid Surprise Round.
Well, do it. Go get them.
Get them.
Twitch.tv/Surprise Round RPG. Go watch some I Ramalta.
Raid.
They do good stuff.
Oh.
Yep. But yeah, go on, head on over there and have some fun, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.